Hey guys, it's yours truly. Today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different here. Because the remaining episodes are taking a lot longer to make, among other things going on in my personal life, I figured I'd post something in the meantime to whet your appetite, as the fancy, classy people might say. This is something that I've been thinking about doing for a while now, actually. I've always been interested in talking about the making of some of my videos and showing the creative process behind them, even with the embarrassing ones. I also think this would be the perfect opportunity for me to explain myself. All jokes aside, I think it would be fun to give you guys a behind-the-scenes look at the making of some of these videos. Think of these videos as a mix between a mini documentary and an audio commentary. Because a lot of the earlier episodes are really short, with some being only 3 minutes long or shorter, there'll be parts devoted to talking at length about the making of the episode, rather than trying to condense everything down into that episode's runtime. I'll also give some trivia along the way at certain points in the video, like a commentary in chronological order. Now, just to clarify, I'll only be talking about the origins of the series itself in this video, as well as my channel to a certain extent, and how I became a Godzilla fan, and not so much about the pilot, which will be saved for part 2. Not that I don't have anything to say about it, it's just that I think that by going over some of this stuff, it'll help give a clearer picture as to what I was trying to do. Not just with the pilot, but also the series itself. The rest of the behind-the-scenes videos after this one will be focused on the making of the episode itself. This one's just the exception. So, with that being said, let's get into it. Growing up, I was very much obsessed with monster films as a kid. Whether I got my parents to rent them for me at the library or at the video store, or just by watching clips on YouTube, I go out of my way to watch anything that had monsters in it. And because of that, my taste for monster films, or just films in general, had widely expanded. Whether it was watching Planet of Dinosaurs at my great-grandparents' place, trailers for shitty B-movies from the 50s, Ray Harryhausen films like Seven Voyages Sinbad or Clash of the Titans, or anything that had dinosaurs in it. Or at least what Hollywood depicts anyways. Whether scientifically inaccurate or just the whole idea of them being monsters, even though they're just animals. But, you know, I'm getting off track here. Whether they were well known or had a cult following, I had to watch it. But what really got me into monster films was a movie my parents introduced me to back in 2006 called King Kong. After seeing the Peter Jackson remake on TV, I was immediately hooked, and whenever we could, we'd always rent it from the video store. And after watching it several times, I went through quite a strong King Kong phase when I was a kid. I played with most of the toys. I often played the Xbox game with my dad, who picked me up from kindergarten during lunch one time just to play the game with me. And it wasn't long until I found out about the 1933 film, which I fell in love with, or the other King Kong films. But I really latched on to the first two, and like I said, they're pretty much the reason why I got into monster films to begin with. Eventually I got both of them on DVD, because, well, I mean, it was probably better than renting them all the time.
What?
Look at that.
The King Kong movie!
What?
Oh, I just wanted this one.
Who found it?
Mom?
Me! I found it!
Why did you buy this movie?
So we don't have to rent it from the library anymore.
It was $3.
However, I remember going to the library one time and looking at some of the other Kong films that they had, and I saw one that said King Kong vs. Godzilla. And I was thinking to myself, like, who's Godzilla? Nah, whatever, surely he can't be as cool as Kong. I mean, he's king after all. And after watching it, I quickly took back that statement. Immediately afterwards, I fell in love with Godzilla, or just kaiju films in general. It was kind of like a passing of the torch moment, where Godzilla became my new obsession as a kid. I'd say my Godzilla phase lasted quite a while, not as much as with Kong, but it was still strong nonetheless. I remember watching a lot of the other Godzilla films growing up, and much like what I did with Kong, a lot of fan videos. Some fan videos that come to mind are Mechagodzilla x Mothra, Revenge of the Black Hole Aliens, that one video that was a remake of Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, but it was with figurines. Also that animated one where Godzilla fought, it was kind of like a combination of Mechagodzilla and Gigan. I love those videos. But you know, like with most kids, sometimes you grow out of it or you become interested in something else. But the way that I got back into Godzilla, and have stayed a big fan to this day, surprisingly enough, was because of Ultraman. I want to say it was near the end of 2011. I would have been 10 years old then. That I remember my dad buying me a DVD from Giant Tiger called Ultraman, saying it was similar to Godzilla, using the same techniques like miniature props and guys in suits, and I got into it really quickly. And I have to say, my obsession with Ultraman was almost the same as with Godzilla, even more so at one point. I mean, hell, the channel's name started off as Ultraman Fan 8 after all. Also, in terms of how I came up with that name, I just threw everything at the wall to see what stuck. I thought, oh, Ultraman Fan 8, that kind of has a good ring to it, however generic it might be. Anyway, it wasn't long after that I started revisiting some of the Godzilla movies I watched as a kid, like King Kong vs. Godzilla, Son of Godzilla, Godzilla vs. Megalon, Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, Mothra vs. Godzilla, the 1998 remake, Godzilla 2000, and just remembered how much fun I had when watching them. At that point, I started watching anything and everything with Godzilla or Ultraman in it, whether clips from the movies or shows or fan videos. I mean, I've always watched a lot of fan videos, but it was more so than before. Plus, by this point, the quality of them had gotten much better with time. The point is, Ultraman is the reason I got back into Godzilla, and have stayed a big Godzilla fan to this day. Honestly, if it weren't for Ultraman, I probably would have forgotten about Godzilla, or wouldn't be as big of a Godzilla fan as I am now. Crazy to think about.
When Godzilla first met Anguirus, they weren't friends.
I was fully absorbed in the Godzilla community by 2013. And when I say fully absorbed, I mean it. Seeing all kinds of fan work, whether videos, music, art, anything.
Dude, just take a seat. You need to... Holy he's throwing a seat at us.
Oh, hey Godzilla! You got a parachute I can use? Parachute? What do you need a parachute? Never mind.
And here we are.
It looks exactly the same.
I told you, it's an alternate universe. This one just happens to be similar to our own. This one is ruled by sweat-smelling giants known as...
Humans, yeah, we know, we read the title.
Nobody likes a smart ass.
Where am I? Why am I here?
Sorry, I just really love those videos. With all seriousness, I was looking at a lot of Godzilla stuff around that time and just loved seeing what fans had made. And that included toy reviews. Mainly the ones from people like Ultraman Chronos, Goji73, DNA Gaming, back when they were known as Rome21, and I'm sure others that I can't remember right now. But it was thanks to these review channels, as well as other channels around that time, that made me want to collect figurines. So I bought a bunch of Ultraman and Godzilla figures, and much like the review channels that recommended them, I wanted to review them. So on June 4th, 2013, I started posting my first few Bandai figure reviews to my channel. Sure, I branched out and did other kinds of videos as well, using puppets, figurines, or whatever the hell this was. But I usually just stuck with the formula, reviewing the figures that I bought for perfectly valid reasons. Yes, perfectly valid reasons and nothing else. Alright, well, I'm gonna have to explain it. One thing I didn't mention when talking about the figures I bought was the reason for me initially buying those figures at the time, strangely enough, was to review them, like Ultraman Chronos. Yeah, it's a really bizarre reason to have figures at all, looking back on it. I mean, I can understand buying figures that the reviewer recommends getting, but like this was something else. And yeah, if you remember my figure reviews from back in the day, it was clear that I was imitating what he was doing. From recreating his background to using certain lines from his reviews and mine, it was very obvious what I was doing. Of course I took them down later on because, well, I mean, just look at them.
So, like, Ultraman, like, so, for, like, when he was fighting, Gaongo, today, is the old Bandai Telestone from the series of the 2001.
Have you ever had a dream?
But, hey, everyone has to start somewhere, am I right? I mean, what YouTuber doesn't start out imitating their heroes? and the funniest thing is that later on, I thought to myself, wait, why not just collect figures that I like because I like them? Like, it never occurred to me until later that not only could I buy figures that I liked, and not just the ones that Ultraman Chronos reviewed, but also collect figures for the sole purpose of having them because I like them. I try not to make too many self-deprecating jokes because I feel like it could become a bad habit, but I was a dumb child back then. But anyway, while I was filming more reviews and buying figures that I liked, there was something else going on in the background. Between January and May of 2013, I'd made several short videos using my figurines with my new iPod that I got last Christmas, and just filmed myself having fun with them. They were very much improvised and very zany, similar to what I watched growing up, like Looney Tunes, The Muppets, DSI flip notes from Epic Guitar, or even YouTube channels like Elbros Film, Totally Cool Tunes, back when he was known as Toho Kingdom Tunes, Gary's Mod channels like Kitty0706 and Belenda Productions, and of course, the big guy himself. No, not Jay Schlett's other channel, it didn't exist then. Monster Island Buddies. To say that Monster Island Buddies inspired me would be an understatement. His content was definitely a major influence on my series as a whole, as I'm sure you've heard other Godzilla YouTubers say. Although, you might be surprised to find out that there was actually someone else I was heavily inspired by, more so than him. And in a funny kind of way, it was someone who was also inspired by Monster Island Buddies. I can't find the videos anymore. I've spent a lot of time looking for them, but I know that the show was just called Monster Island Series. It had the same intro, minus Godzilla's head breaking through the title art, using some of the same voices and plot lines. It was very much like MIB, but as most people do, sooner or later they start going in their own direction. I wish I had the videos, but I do remember certain parts from the series. At the beginning of one of the episodes, Godzilla and Ghidorah were trying to figure out how to get rid of Monster X, or Ghidorah's father, though ultimately someone else came in and suggested a different idea, which is what they went along with. What it was exactly, I'm not too sure, but that's just what I remember. I can't be 100% certain, but I believe that was the case. There was a short video I made back in the day testing out iMovie's audio effects, where I actually quoted lines from the show itself.
Okay, Godzilla, here's the plan. Let me defeat you in this fight, and I become the king of the monsters. You know, you have lame ideas. And besides, I have a movie called Godzilla King of the Monsters. What do you have? You just have Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster, in an obvious movie.
But anyway, while I was filming these videos on my iPod, I suddenly got this idea. There was this ongoing thing in the Godzilla community where they'd ship or have Godzilla and Mothra together as a romantic couple. I mean, they still do to this day, but like this was especially true at the time. There was fan fiction, fan art, fan videos, or series of videos, animated or otherwise, where they were together as a couple, and it was around that time that I thought to myself, hey, why don't I create a series about Godzilla and Mothra using my figurines? That'd be so cool. Right?